Now to protecting your skin from the sun in this heat. Are the products you're using really helping? July is UV Safety Month if you didn't know, and skin cancer is the most common form of cancer in the U.S. About 1 in 5 people in the U.S. will develop some form of the cancer by the age of 70. And there are a lot of products that claim to offer protection, including in makeup. But do they work? So we want to talk about all of that with Dr. Amy Lewinsky, the Associate Chief Medical Officer and Vice President of Clinical Partnerships at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. Thank you for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Priya. I'm happy to be here.
Okay, SPF in makeup. I have seen it everywhere. I have a tinted moisturizer that says SPF on it. Am I just buying into marketing?
The SPFs that are in makeups are helpful, but they are not sufficient. You really need to protect your skin as well with a broad spectrum sunscreen that blocks all the types of rays that can damage your skin, because we're worried. I know many of us as we're aging are thinking about our wrinkles and protection from the sun, and that's an important part of it. But skin cancer, as you mentioned at the outset, it's one of the most diagnosed cancers both in the US as well as worldwide.
You don't think about that number a lot. Like, that surprised me that that's number one.
Yeah, absolutely. And by the time you're 70, 1 in 5 people are going to be diagnosed with skin cancer. So it's a significant issue.
So when it comes to your makeup, the reason I like SPF in the makeup is because when you're applying it, it's not thick and heavy.
Right.
But am I losing something because of that?
Right. So when you're putting on makeup, if you were to get a sufficient amount, you'd have to really cake it on, and that's not the look, right? The look now is actually to be more natural.
Right.
And so we're putting on lighter layers. The SPF levels in the makeup also are generally lower.
But it still says like SPF 30 or 45.
Right. It does. But when you're putting it on, you're putting on a thin layer. So the recommendation is to look for a sunscreen for daily wear that's at least 30 SPF, and you want to look for those words broad spectrum.
Okay.
So that it's covering both UVA and UVB type rays. Because while UVB is what contributes to a suntan or sunburn, UVA also contributes to cancer, and so you want to make sure that you're blocking both of those types of rays. And generally we recommend that you put that on your skin first.
Okay.
And it's still helpful to have the SPF in the makeup. It's just not sufficient. You need to protect your skin with sunscreen first.
I did not know that. I thought I was doing my job with the tinted moisturizer, but then I thought I was getting away with it too, but it is a very light layer that you put on. You have beautiful skin. What is your routine? What are you doing?
Yeah, so I moisturize in the morning, and then I also put on SPF.
Okay.
And I do have SPF embedded in my makeup. But I do try to...
But you're adding that extra layer.
It is an extra layer that's added, and the type of powder that there are powders out there that are mineral powders that can also have SPF, and that can be beneficial because that can be a nice finisher, especially if you're touching up your makeup through the day. Because the other thing that's important to remember about sunscreen is that you do need to reapply. It doesn't last all day.
I always forget that.
Yeah. Yes, especially if you're outside. And then you also want to look at an SPF that's even higher, like a 50. And if you're in the water or sweating, you need to reapply even more because it will come off. And so having your makeup with you as a finisher to kind of touch up after you reapply your sunscreen is helpful for a lot of women.
Well, one of my challenges, I feel like it's such a thick substance when you're putting it on, that SPF, and then your makeup doesn't sit well. That's kind of been one of the reasons why I haven't done it as much.
Yeah, no, I understand.
Right?
And there are different types. There's a mineral sunscreen, which is very thick and can leave. If you've seen people put on sunscreen and see that white kind of film.
That's my childhood.
Yeah, that's the mineral types of sunscreen, and that's really good for people that have skin problems because it can irritate your skin less. But the downside of it is it's very difficult to rub in. It's very thick, and so a lot of people end up using the other types of sunscreen, which are more chemical types of sunscreens. And those work as well, but you do end up with a little bit of a sheen after you put it on, and so that's why having like a powder with an SPF to kind of go over top of that then can help set your look.
And the powder would be effective as well.
Yes.
Even though it's a powder.
But you also want to have that SPF sunscreen. So you're going to reapply that, and then you can dust with the powder over top, like a mineral type of powder that has SPF embedded in it to cut down on that shine.
Well, I am learning so much. I've got to reevaluate all my makeup. I thought I was doing the right thing, but okay, I've got to stock up on some SPF. Don't go anywhere because we're going to continue this conversation in about 90 seconds. We are back now with Dr. Amy Maluski, the Associate Chief Medical Officer and Vice President of Clinical Partnerships at Blue Cross Blue Shield of Michigan. And we're having I find this a fascinating conversation about SPF and makeup, because you think you're doing the right thing, but it might not be as effective. For myself, as a woman of color, I started noticing some freckles on my nose, and I like them. I thought they were cute. Yeah. And then my doctor was like, no, that's sun damage.
That's sun damage. Absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, as we start to age, we start seeing those little brown spots. And on our arms,
everywhere.
on our face. Yep, that's sun damage cumulative over our lifetime. So.
And I was thinking culturally, even when my doctor pointed that out, you know, we were always told, my background's Indian, like just don't be in the sun a lot. Yeah. But it was never because of a concern about skin cancer, and we didn't really put SPF on as kids. We didn't think it was for kids of color.
Yes.
But that is misleading.
It is. And I think we know even more about sun damage and the you know, the effects on the skin.
The 90s were a different time.
I agree. So, but you know, we do know better now, and we know that sunscreen is for everybody, regardless of your ethnicity, because just because you may not, your skin may tan better and not burn as often, you are still susceptible to some of those rays that can contribute to wrinkles as well as cancer.
Really?
So, absolutely.
Because I did think, like, I'm not getting burned, so that's not a concern for me.
And burns are bad. Like, I don't want anybody to mishear that. So if you're very fair, there's some evidence out there, you know, stating that if you have 5 or more burns in a lifetime, that it doubles your risk of melanoma.
In a lifetime?
In a lifetime.
I mean, you can get that in one summer.
Yes. Yeah. So sunscreen is for everybody. You know, we want to make sure that we're taking good care of our skin, because we have it for our entire life, right? So
it's our biggest organ.
It's our biggest organ.
Yeah. What would your message be to people of color? Because I think we're slowly making some headway. I mean, I've started to think about it more. I mean, I recently discovered about Bob Marley. Yeah. And so there are cases out there, but I just feel like we don't talk about it enough.
Absolutely. So using sunscreen, applying it regularly, making sure, particularly if you're going to be out in the sun, that you're selecting an SPF that's higher, 50 or above. Okay. And then making sure if you're in and out of the water that you're applying it regularly through the day. If you are in the water, your sunscreen's only going to last about 45 minutes. So you have to get out and reapply.
I think one of the deterrents for people of color too is that the lotion is so shockingly white. So when you put it on, I mean, you just feel like you're rubbing forever to try to get it to disappear.
Yeah. There are other alternatives. They make sticks, sunscreen sticks that can be good for your face and things like that. If you're using a stick, you want to use 4 passes. There are also sprays, right, that don't have as effective, but when you're spraying, the American Academy of Dermatology has said you want to spray enough to see the sheen on your skin. So when you're spraying, you're going to see kind of that shine.
Like, you don't want to be misting from up here.
That's right. You want to you want to be able to see a sheen, and then once you have that sheen, just rub it in.
And you said there were some spots that we forget? Like, I know the nose or the T-zone, but...
There are common areas that get forgotten. Neck, backs of your hands, tops of your feet, and your nose. And then I think also for men who are aging, you know, we often forget, sometimes there's, you know, male pattern baldness, they're losing their hair at the crown, making sure that they're either covering with a hat or putting sunscreen up there, because it's a very common area for sun exposure and the development of skin cancer.
Wait, you mean all those jokes I made at my dad's expense? I should have actually been like, hey, Dad,
put on a hat.
Oh.
Put on a hat.
I'll tell him that for sure.
Yeah.
You know, when it comes to just sunscreen and applying it, do you think that there are still some misconceptions out there?
There are. I think that, you know, you brought up a common one, ethnicity, and I don't need it, you know, my skin is, I don't burn, I don't, you know, I just tan. I think that's one of the most common ones. The other one is, you know, on cloudy days, people oftentimes forget, you know, because they're not hot, they don't feel the heat of the sun or the sun's rays, they think they don't need sunscreen, but some of the worst burns and also effects can happen, you know, even on cloudy days.
So do you think it could be, I don't want to say year round, like you're applying it every day, but when we do think about sometimes in the winter when you got tons of snow and you got the sun reflecting off that, you should be thinking about sunscreen then too?
Absolutely, for areas that are exposed. So in the winter, we're oftentimes bundled up, so your arms aren't going to be as exposed and things like that.
But this area...
But your face, your hands, your neck, absolutely, you should still be applying sunscreen.
I think you should just remember all your lotion that goes on your face needs to go on your neck.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
one thing I'm learning as we get older.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate this conversation.
This was great, thank you.
And hopefully some folks will walk away from it being like, you know what, maybe a little bit's good for me too.
Yeah.
but now I have to check my makeup. Thanks, Doc.
Thank you.